And we are live. Good evening. It is almost midnight. Toronto, Stevie live. And boy, was it a busy weekend for professional wrestling. And I watched three of the 4 or 5 shows, however many shows there were on, um, starting with Saturday night. There was Saturday night was WWE Night of Champions. Sunday, I believe there was AEW Forbidden Door, and I think there was a TNA show, Slammiversary. There was an NXT show, and then Monday was Monday Night Raw. So I didn't watch all of the wrestling, but I did want to give my reviews of the shows that I did watch. I know I still have some Forbidden Door to watch, and I understand it was one of the best shows ever for AEW. So let's get into what I did watch. Before I do, let me just say like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and let me know what you thought of the shows that you did watch. I believe let's what whether or not they are going to survive once again. But while they are still on the air, I did want to watch some TNA. So, um, Slammiversary card. The main card began with Ultimate X. The champion, I believe, was a former WWE star Cedric Alexander, and he was defending the title against Leon Slater, Frankie Kazarian, Fib returning after 15 years, the Amazing Red. So this one was, just like all the other um, Ultimate X matches. They had the X in the middle of the ring, and guys running, climbing the cables, trying to get to the X, and eventually they did manage to. I think it was it Leon Slater, or was it Amazing Red? I think it was Amazing Red and Leon Slater were both trying to grab it, and then just as one of them grabbed the X, Cedric Alexander took it away from them. He just jumped up and grabbed it and retained the title. I thought this was a cheap way to win. I think they really need to do something about that Ultimate X so that you can't just grab it like that and declare yourself the winner. That was a bit ridiculous. But anyway, that was how they finished that match. The second match on the night was the former Elias, now called Elijah, taking on AJ Francis, the former top dollar from WWE. And at one point, Elijah had a guitar and slammed it over the head of I guess, AJ Francis's second expressions. I think they called him, slammed him with a guitar. And then eventually he hit what's called a Drifter Destroyer and pinned AJ Francis. Um, so this is what's happening. Again, two former WWE stars that won the matches. Third match of the night was TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Championships. You had Heather by Elegance and M by Elegance, the champions, defending the titles against Rosemary and Allie. I know Jackie Jones, or now Nasty Neil, has never been a fan of Allie, the bunny in AEW. But actually, the winners of the match were the Undead Realm. Rosemary and Allie win the match and become the new tag team champions. I actually, when I do get a chance to watch TNA, I always thought those Undead Realm vignettes were kind of entertaining. So it would be interesting to see how they celebrate and reign as tag team champions. The next match of the night was for the TNA International Championship. It was an open challenge. Mustafa Ali didn't know who his mystery opponent was going to be. In fact, there was going to be two of them, and they turned out to be Rich Swann and the debuting Uhaa Nation, the former Apollo Crews in WWE. So Mustafa Ali actually taking on two former WWE wrestlers. Again, former WWE wrestlers in TNA. So Mustafa Ali, actually, he's kind of resurrected his career in TNA. I'm kind of enjoying watching him get a chance to shine in the mid card TNA. But he was able to retain his international championship. Mustafa Ali, I think he got the pin on Rich Swann. Um, a lot of flying around the ring, and it's great to see Uha Nation. The crowd was really into Uha Nation, chanting out his name, so they knew who he was. So it's probably another good move for the former Apollo Crews. Um, so we'll see. Again, if TNA can survive, it certainly is a good match. So next up, it was called a no surrender match: Moose versus Eddie Edwards. Basically, this was like one of those matches similar to like Owen Hart versus Bret Hart, where each wrestler has a second and they have a towel in their hand, and the objective is to basically throw in the towel. And when your second throws in the towel, you lose the match. So Moose had JDC in his corner, the former Fandango in WWE, and Eddie Edwards had his wife Alicia Edwards in. And this one basically came down to, I think Moose had Eddie Edwards. I think, was he going to spear him through a table? I'm not sure. But before Moose could spear Eddie Edwards through a table, Alicia Edwards ran into the ring and threw it down the towel, and Moose won the match. But I think in the post match, he still speared both Eddie and Alicia Edwards through the table. So Moose, who was a longtime member of the system, he's now a former member, but he still won the match. So up next was the TNA Knockouts World Championship. Lei Ying Lee, the former Xia Li in WWE, taking on Xia Brookside. And again, another former WWE wrestler and a champion in TNA. But this time it was Xia Brookside who had been stuck in the mid card in TNA. She really hadn't accomplished much. She'd win matches, she'd lose matches, but she really wasn't. But now she is the TNA Knockouts champion. So we'll see what becomes of that. Next, we had the TNA World Tag Team Championships. It was a fatal four-way ladder match. You had the System, Brian Myers and some Bear Bronson, I think the guy's name, were the champions, and they were defending the titles in the ladder match against Matt and Jeff Hardy, the Righteous, and the Great Hands, basically Mustafa Ali's guys. And surprise, surprise, well, maybe not too much of a surprise after all. Winners of the match and regaining the TNA Knockout, the TNA World Tag Team Championships, Matt and Jeff Hardy. They managed to climb the ladders, and both of them grabbed the belts and once again regained the titles. One thing about Matt and Jeff, they are moving at kind of half speed as they're getting older. One of them is it Matt, who's over 50, and Jeff's about 48 or 49. But they're once again the TNA Tag Team Champions. And the main event of the evening, TNA World Championship, Mike Santana, the champion, defending against Nick Nemeth. Is also in the news was the possibility that Mike Santana may be signing with WWE, and this certainly emphasized the point, as it was Nick Nemeth who used the zigzag, or I guess now they're calling it some other name, but it was basically a zigzag to beat Mike Santana. Um, the danger zone. I think he's calling it now the danger zone. But basically, it's the zigzag. And he pins Mike Santana, and TNA Slammiversary goes off the air with Nick Nemeth as the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. So, but an enjoyable show. I'll say this about TNA. One thing that they were really good at was putting on an entertaining show, fast-paced show, match after match after match. Actually, I can't even recall if there was any backstage segments which would slow down the show. It just kept going at a very good pace, and for that, I would give TNA. They put on a good show. A thumbs up to TNA. We've got Mr. Chobo. How are you doing, Anthony? I watched, as I said, I was able to watch some TNA. I don't know if you got a chance to watch it, Anthony, but if you did, I would highly recommend it. If you can get a chance to see TNA Slammiversary, a lot of ex-WWE wrestlers on that show, quite a lot. So if you are a WWE wrestling fan, you would see a lot of stars showed up there, and you're basically now a lot of the roster is populated by ex-WWE wrestlers. So also on that night, on the weekend, was WWE Night of Champions from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. I was so worried. I mean, I think I did a King of the Ring review, or the Night of Champions review, as a separate separate video itself. So I did want to just review. So take a look at that, my separate video. I was so worried that WWE was going to screw up Obafemi, but fortunately they did not. He easily defeated Jey Uso. Surprise, surprise, in the Queen of the Ring, I thought Liv Morgan was going to win and then go on to face Rhea Ripley, but there's a possibility that Rhea Ripley is injured, and I didn't get a chance. I'll check on SmackDown on Friday and see what the future of that's like. Nonetheless, Io Sky won and has announced that she's going to face Liv Morgan at SummerSlam for her title. Seth Rollins beat Braun Breaker in the steel cage match. Seth Rollins really didn't need to win this match. Braun Breaker really is the future, represents the future. It's hard to imagine that Seth Rollins represents the past, but that's kind of where it's at. So really, Braun Breaker should be winning more matches than losing, but nonetheless, Seth Rollins. But the reason, I guess, is when we'll get into the Raw report of why Seth Rollins won the match. U.S. Championship, Trick Williams easily defeated Ricky Saints. I kind of thought that was going to happen anyway. There was no reason for Ricky to win that match. Women's U.S. Championship, Tiffany Stratton and Jade Cargill. Jade didn't get it done. Charlotte Flair interfered in that match and allowed Tiffany to win the match, setting up a future Charlotte Flair versus Jade Cargill feud. Where Tiffany goes, who knows? And in the main event for the undisputed WWE Championship, Cody Rhodes versus Sami Zayn versus Gunther. This one came out of left field. I did think that either Cody or Gunther was going to win the match, but nonetheless surprised everybody and gave the win to Sami Zayn, finally after 10 attempts at winning a world title and losing. Sami Zayn is now the WWE champion. So, and it was more like of a babyface win that he won the match. So this set up the post Night of Champions Monday Night Raw. It came to you from Atlantic City, New Jersey. They were back in the United States. It was so there was a review of the King and Queen in the Ring. And then they cut to the crowd, and it's Obafemi starting off the show. He's carrying the crown. He's not wearing it. I notice he's probably going to be one of those kings of the ring that doesn't wear the crown. But he comes down to the ring. The crowd's really getting into his entrance. And he says, he's made a believer out of Jey Uso. He's now the king of the ring, and he has a choice to make. And I was really glad that they waited. I kind of thought Brock was going to get involved, but I'm really glad that they waited until Monday Night Raw to have Brock come out. I was really worried that Brock was going to make the trip all the way to Night of Champions, screw Obafemi out of the King of the Ring, and then somehow they would get Jey Uso to be the King of the Ring. But they didn't go that way, and that was the better decision to make. So Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman come out, and they come down to the ring, and Brock Lesnar takes the microphone, and he actually makes an announcement to the fans. Here's your King of the Ring, Obafemi. And basically Brock cuts this promo about says that he doesn't watch the show, and but he says you've been calling me a coward, you've been calling me a bitch, and so Brock basically says I'm not good at this, and that's why Mr. Heyman is around. But you know what they say, talk shit and get hit. And with that, Brock Lesnar basically kicked Oba in the nuts, and then quickly gave him an F5. And then they got back up, sold the nut shot, grabbed the microphone, and basically said that he didn't want to face a WWE champion at SummerSlam, and he basically challenged Brock Lesnar to a match at SummerSlam instead. Paul Heyman had a microphone. He gave it to Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar says, I accept, but I'm going to one-up you, Oba. And then he said he wants a Hell in a Cell match. So it certainly looks like the sort of that rubber match between these two, will be the third match, will be a Hell in a Cell match at SummerSlam. So Oba's World Championship match will have to be delayed. And who knows how long or when it's going to happen. It could be Saturday night's main event. It could be a later PLE. It could even be the Royal Rumble. Who knows? But we'll just have to wait and see when Obafemi makes that decision and who it's going to be against. So we go backstage, and you have the Judgment Day. They announce that JD McDonough, I think he has a match against Chad Gable. And we get some more superstar rivals and then I think Paul Heyman is with Adam Pearce, and Austin Theory is wondering, well, where have you been? I need you for my match. And basically Paul Heyman blows off Austin Theory, maybe rightfully so too, as far as I'm concerned. So we go back to the ring, and the opening match of the night, I think this is almost like a half an hour into the show. It seemed like it was a long time. Rey Mysterio versus All Ego Ethan Page. I've mentioned this before, that I really thought Ethan Page has been mishandled since he came up to the main roster, and he's just basically been a jobber. Once again, there was no Rusev here, so basically it was Rey Mysterio hitting the 619 and a frog splash. And once again, Eagle Ethan Page is once again a jobber. He goes 1, 2, 3. Rey Mysterio wins the match. We go backstage, and you have Dirty Dom, Mysterio, and JD McDonough have been doing these backstage segments with Danhausen. I think it's a waste of Dirty Dom, but nonetheless, they keep doing these. So coming back from the commercial break, we get a live musical performance of Joe Hendry. So Joe Hendry, before he begins his musical performance, he brings out the new WWE World Tag Team Champions, the Street Profits, and then they start sort of the live performance. And Joe Hendry sings a song about, I think he sang a song about Austin Theory. And of course, this infuriates Austin Theory. And he comes out to the ring and he demands that they stop singing the song. And Austin Theory reminds Joe Hendry that he beat John Cena at WrestleMania. And he wants to face Joe Hendry one-on-one right away. So I think this went through a commercial break. Coming back from the commercial break, we had a referee in the ring. So Joe Hendry has a match on Raw against Austin Theory. And it was Joe Hendry winning the match. Again, I think now that Austin Theory has lost the tag team titles, he's kind of in a similar position as All Eagle Ethan Page. He should just be a guy who puts over everybody else. Really, I don't see where how much farther they can go with Austin Theory. So, talking about, of course, they want a title match with Roxanne Perez. Coming back from it, but I think she has a singles match against Maxine Dupree later on in the night. So it'll be Roxanne, and it'll be Raquel Rodriguez versus Maxine Dupree. Backstage, you have Io Sky celebrating as the queen of the ring. Oh, she comes out. I think she came out to the ring with her crown, and she was the one wearing the crown. So she announces, yes, that she's going to face Roxanne Perez. Yeah, she's going to face Liv Morgan at SummerSlam. But Liv Morgan and Roxanne come out, and Liv Morgan cuts his promo saying she's been beating wrestlers and they've been disappearing, such as Stephanie Vaquer. What happened to her? Rhea Ripley. What happened to her? But basically, I think they tried to go after Io Sky, but Io Sky actually was able to beat them off and stand tall in the ring. So I think despite this, I really wouldn't give the win to Io Sky. I think I'm just getting a sneaky feeling that Liv Morgan is going to beat her at SummerSlam. It would surprise me, much like Io Sky winning the Queen of the Ring. It would surprise me if she beats Liv Morgan at SummerSlam. So coming back from the commercial break, we get a rematch, LA Knight versus Jimmy Uso. And the story of this was that LA Knight didn't know what was going on in their first match when Solo Sikoa interfered, and he wanted to make it right by giving Jey Uso another chance. So they have another match. This went through a commercial break. Jimmy Uso was getting, I think LA Knight didn't go for the BFT, but not mind at another with LA Knight. Don't really know where this is going, because really, again, Solo was kind of in that same situation as Austin Theory and Ethan Page, just kind of like a guy who should be used to put other guys over, but he's a little bit higher up on the card than the other guys. So nonetheless, the commentators hype the next season of WWE Unreal. Um, I think they showed video of Gunther and Nick Aldis, and then backstage, um, you have Chad Gable preparing for his match. Uh, and after the commercial break, Jacob Fatu makes an appearance with the Usos, um, and of Lyra Valkyria. Um, and then Maxine, there's a short interaction between Maxine Pre and Chad Gable. Um, Once again, she basically reiterates what happened last week on Raw. Um, um, I don't know if the heel turn will continue, but she has a match. I think hers is next. It's Raquel Rodriguez versus Maxine Dupree. Really didn't expect much out of this. Raquel hit the Tejana bomb on Maxine and pinned her 1, 2, 3. Um, kind of expected that. Um, uh, there is a backstage segment with Liv Morgan and Danhausen. They're still, I guess, the Judgment Day is still trying to get some money from Danhausen. Um, and then right after that, after the commercial break, is Chad Gable versus JD McDonough. Chad Gable, is basically throwing JD McDonough around. And eventually this went through a commercial break. And it was eventually Chad Gable was able to get JD McDonough down on the mat. He slaps on the ankle lock, and JD McDonough can't get to the ring ropes. He tried, he couldn't do it, so eventually he had to tap out to the ankle lock. So the winner of the match by submission was Chad Gable. So sorry, I'm getting these ugly pop-ups that I'm trying to get rid of. So Chad Gable is celebrating in the ring. Dirty Dom comes down to the ring. And I think there was I think did Danhausen come down to this? There was something, yeah. Danhausen was seen in the crowd.